Oh,
Don't yawn.
There's coffee. It's 4 o'clock.
We're live, honey. Welcome, guys. Welcome back to another open clinic. This is I guess, a slight deviation from the normal practice in the sense that I've got my wife here.
And Elmo.
And no one else. Okay, stitch up. So in the last sort of week or so, both Matilda and I have reached out and requested questions from you guys, and they've come in relatively thick and fast, and we're going to walk through as many as we can today. Some are for me and some are for Matilda. So do you want to start?
Do we have a pour of coffee?
It's black, I'm afraid.
All right, so first question. Scott, I'm training for a half marathon. Any training tips? Not nutrition, more about heart rate, etc.
Sure. I mean, to answer this with a real degree of accuracy, I'd probably need to know a little bit more about your goals and outcomes, and whether you want to do it for fun in terms of like your energetic output. So are you happy with just a shuffle, let's say, or are you going to aim for a PB? Because one is very different to the other, and they require different energy systems. So if we're looking for sort of a heart rate range of around about 65% of your max, then we're going to be oxidizing fat more. And I know you don't want to talk about nutrition, but it's sort of inextricably linked. So if you're looking for a bit of a shuffle and a bit of a fun run, let's say, there's certain adaptations that occur within that heart rate range. So it's more of a cellular adaptation. So you're going to increase your mitochondrial biogenesis. So you're going to increase the proliferation of mitochondria, which obviously increases your ability to make fuel. If you're going to step that up, you're going to get adaptations on what we call a peripheral level. So that's your blood flow, and you're going to get an increase in the capillarization at the muscle level. So obviously you've got more oxygenated blood going to your...
What does that mean?
Well, you've got more oxygenated blood going to those muscles, working muscles.
In English,
she asked a question around heart rate ranges. So and then if you want to go, let's say you're going for a PB, so anything sort of 80%, 85% of your max heart rate, in training, you're going to get central changes. So actual changes to the size of your left ventricle. Your heart is going to change.
I'm just referring back to her question to see if you're answering it. Like, that's amazing, honey. And I love that you are going into such detail. But
what was the question?
Can you just give us I'm training for a half marathon, any training tips? Not nutrition, just give us like fair enough if we had an hour, like great, okay. Go into all the detail, but just give us some really quick, helpful training tips. Go back to your, when you were a personal trainer.
Yeah, but
should she be sprinting up a hill? Should she be doing long jogs as far, what's a half marathon? Is that, how many kilometers is that?
21.
Yeah.
So by the time you get close to about a fortnight out from the actual event, you want to have done close to the half marathon. You don't have to do the 21 Ks, but you want to be getting close. So on the day when you're performing, race day, crowd, energy, you can almost, account for a couple of Ks there. But it kind of does matter what tempo she's running at, the intensity. Because if it's a shuffle, then you kind of want to, you want to stay in that heart rate range in training. But if you're looking for peak performance and peak output, then you want to be doing drills and training that puts you in that peak. So you want to be doing hills, sprints, soft sand, stairs that get you to be 85, 90% of your heart rate range.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. I think
but
that's
basically,
more practical advice than...
There's beneficial adaptations that happen on a cellular level, blood level, heart level, at different heart rate ranges. So the best thing we can all do is to train at those different intensities for those different adaptations. And if we do that, the one thing that will benefit you in the race is that you'll increase the threshold at which you can tolerate fat for fuel. And if you can keep that ceiling fairly high before you switch over to carbohydrates, it means that you'll be able to sustain output for longer.
Okay. So for the people who do want to know about the nutrition, just really simple, like 3 things that would be useful to know if you were training for a half marathon, like for food, like what would you eat before you were training or
I guess
after?
if I was going to do a half marathon, I would knuckle down and get as fat adapted as I can be. By that I mean dabbling with fasting, eating high fat or moderate fat protocol, and what that does, that enables you to run your fat burning machine really efficiently. And if you can do that when you're performing, it means that the switch over to carbohydrates at a certain intensity happens at a higher intensity, because we have days, weeks of fat for fuel, but we have maybe 90 minutes of carbohydrate fuel before we have to refuel. Right. So if you can perform as long as you can and as high as you can within fat before you switch over to carbohydrates, you're in a really good position. Right. So this translates beautifully to a half marathon because it's long endurance. So if you can run on fat for as long a period of time, and because you've trained in a certain way, you've pushed that threshold up, you've pushed that ceiling of where you switch to carbohydrates.
I'm thinking about lunch now. You've lost me.
Well, fucking Elmo's listening. I think I've answered the question.
Okay. Is there a blog on your website or anything that she can read that would help her with any of this?
No.
Is there any other resources that she could go to? Would going keto help, or so in layman's terms, stop eating carbohydrates, start eating healthy fats? Is that what you're saying?
For this particular event,
yeah,
high endurance,
yeah,
prolonged endurance, there's reason to suggest that keto will help.
Okay, cool. We hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Next question.
Do you want one from me, or do you want to go again?
You've got a lot, so let's...
Okay.
Okay. Hi guys. Was wondering about staying on the healthy path to reach your goals when it seems to be taking so long. When you feel that the fortitude you have to muster and to keep going feels so hard. Any tips on how to deal with this? Probably a more of a psychological question, as my mind gets sick of what it feels like to grind.
I guess the really short answer is there's no magic pill. I'm sure you've heard that before, that there's no quick and easy solution. If it was, we'd all be, perfect specimens of ourselves. Well, and it depends where you are in your journey. So it sounds like you're getting frustrated that it's taking time or it's hard and that you're having to be quite granular about it. But I think there's 2 ways of looking at it. One is that you're zoomed right out of the day-to-day, and you're mapping out your master plan, which I don't know your age, it might be for another 40, 50, 60 years. And when you frame it like that and you say, okay, I'm going to eat predominantly natural and unprocessed, I'm going to sleep well, I'm going to hydrate well, I'm going to move my body most of the time in that next 30, 40, 50 years, you don't have to worry about missing the gym or having a shitty meal or sleeping poorly 1 or 2 nights, because most of the time you're doing the right thing. But before we can get to that stage, there's a need to get granular and zoom in. And I like to position it like every decision that we have to eat or drink, and we might have dozens of those during the day, is simply a door that opens. And you've got 2 opposing paths, and one path is maybe your old patterns of behavior that don't serve your health goals, and the other serves your health goals. And so there's an opportunity there to go in one or two directions. So you have to get granular and have to accept that these moments come many, many times a day, and there's an opportunity to go one of two ways at each moment. But the first thing to do is to, before you even act out, is to acknowledge the thought that comes in that you want to go to the fridge or the pantry or you eat. Then you go, and if you can catch yourself, which is a skill and a craft in itself, you go, okay, which path do I want to take? And so maybe you're there, maybe you're in those sort of early stages where it is necessary to be a bit granular and a bit zoomed in and micro, and analyze each decision that you make during the day. And then if you spend enough time doing that, the new normal or the new protocol becomes innate to you. And at that point you can zoom right out and you can kind of take the foot off the gas, I reckon.
Yeah, and I would also just say that, like, when you are tired, just don't do anything. Like, and when
What question is that answering?
When you want to have a burger, have a burger. No, but I think, like, sometimes you get, like, well, for me, I can get obsessive about something, and then when I muck it up, I'm like, oh, forget it. I've mucked it up. There's no point now. And I think that over the years, I've given myself permission to just not exercise every single day. Sometimes I don't even exercise all week.
I've never seen you exercise. Yeah, but sorry to jump in, but
sometimes you see two paths and you want to go in the direction that's not the right, it's not the right direction, but be conscious of it and go, I'm gonna allow myself to go down this road, because probably if I allow myself to go down this road, I'm gonna want to veer back on to the other one, to the other track, just because you've allowed yourself to, give yourself a break, and you're not whipping yourself all the time.
Yeah. So every time that doorway opens, when you have a decision that you have to make around food or drink or whatever, there are two paths, and one moves towards your health goal, and one, is the status quo or, doesn't achieve your health goals long term. But if you choose that one, as Till's sort of alluding to, it doesn't undo all the good that you did yesterday or the week before, or it's just a blip in the landscape when you, as Till articulated, she's actually zoomed right out. So Till's looking at her master plan, which, she's 33, 34, so she's got another 50 years, maybe more. So she's zoomed right out and she goes, oh, if I miss the gym or I miss my workout a few times a week, or even have a month off, or I do have that burger or that bowl of ice cream, whatever it is, because her perspective is one that she's zoomed out and she knows that she's doing the right thing most of the time, on those incidences, it doesn't derail her, it doesn't change her mood. It's almost like a break from the norm and a pleasurable thing to do. I think Tim Tams for breakfast, though, is a bit much, honey.
I think we're done with that question.
Yeah.
Hope that helps. Hope that didn't confuse you even more. I feel like these questions are just going to confuse people. Okay. How can someone... You did me one now.
Okay.
One of the two.
Okay. I feel like you wrote this, but we'll see. You seem like such a clever, lovely and warm and happy person.
Thanks.
Can you share what your absolute core values are you try to live by?
Yeah. I just have to be next to Scott because I'm using his mic. Firstly, thank you. My core values that I try to live by. I try to make life light. I'm a very get out of bed.
Half full.
fuck this up.
You already have. What do you mean you're going to?
Get out of bed. I get out of bed on the right side.
Drinking from 7 a.m. helps.
We're drunk, by the way. No, I'm a happy-go-lucky person most of the time. So, but I think it's because I don't take things too seriously, as you can tell, and I don't really get like weighed down by the stresses of life, I guess. So that's I guess one of my values. It's not really a value, but it's sort of how I live my life. Like we're all gonna die, so just don't get caught up in the minutia of things if you can help it. I mean, so obviously sometimes it's hard to avoid that, but I guess the other thing would be to like family. Try and be present for my kids. Try and play with Zan as much as I can tolerate.
As he can tolerate.
Jump on the trampoline when he asks me to jump on the trampoline, which doesn't happen all the time. And just like balance, I think. I think in the last couple of years I've stopped, like since kids have come into my life, it's really been about, it's not about me so much. It's not about my ego so much. And how can I be a good wife and a good mum and also give back to myself, which isn't a lot at the moment. And also just be kind. I think just like trying to put positive into the world and trying to affect a positive ripple effect is like one of the biggest things that I would try and do on a day-to-day level, and just in life, in business, in interacting with people in the supermarket or in a cafe or
not at the moment.
Not at the moment. But yeah, just to try and put positive energy into the world. Yeah.
But you do have which is one of the questions that we have is how we met, but we might not get to that. But what attracted me to you was this sort of groundedness, but also this lightness. You just seem to kind of what do lambs do? They kind of
bounce around.
Bounce around. Is it gamble? You kind of like, you just seem very airy. Well, you are very airy. You're very grounded, and maybe not airy is the right word, but like buoyant. Like you're very.
I'm just kind of like water off a duck's back about things, really. Did you say?
Well, no, that sounds like you don't care about things, but you do care. It's just that, your glass is...
It's a lightness.
Yeah, it's a lightness. That's what I mean.
It's like my dad. My dad's like that. There's a lightness to him. Doesn't get like weighed down by stuff.
No. Yeah, it's a fucking asset to have.
What attracted me to you is your heaviness.
Yeah, we balance each other out.
Like what do pigs do when they're like wading through the mud? They're like, what? That's what you do.
Thanks.
Joking.
Yeah. But you've got to have a balance, haven't you?
Oh, I feel like this is just...
Yeah, let's never do this again.
Okay, back to seriousness. How can someone who has never dieted take a leap into the keto diet? Since having 2 children, 14 months apart, I've gone up 3 dress sizes.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay. For someone who has never dieted, how do you jump into keto? Look, I've written books on the subject and plenty of blogs and blah, blah, blah. But if you read my book on keto, there's actually a few steps you do before keto. So keto is just one, eating You've sat right back, you're relaxed, you're out for a few minutes.
No, I'm just not speaking, I don't need to be near the mic.
So keto is just a framework to model your eating on. It's not the holy grail, it's not the be all and end all, it's just a version of eating. And yes, it does have lots of health promoting benefits. But there are still ways to lose weight in keto, in vegan, in vegetarian. It just requires a number of key principles. So if you've never dieted, going 100% keto might be a bit of a stretch, and you might be able to adhere to it for a week or two, but then it's so contrasting to your current model that you possibly fall off. So it's not just...
Or you put on heaps of weight.
It's not to say that...
Which is what I did when I first met Scott, because he was making me keto smoothies, which have like 1,000 calories in them, and he was chugging one down for breakfast, made no difference for him. Meanwhile, I'm just like... I was like, great, can we just eat, we can just drink these all day long? Amazing. So just go easy on the macadamia smoothies if you're going to go keto.
So what I was saying is that there might be, it's not to say that the keto diet or the keto protocol can't be the end game, but let's break down the path to get there. So don't try and do it tomorrow. It might be a case of there's some really big, easy wins to be had from crowding out some of the processed food. So if your diet, before you look at macros, before you look at quantity and volume of calories, if you're exchanging your processed foods for natural and unprocessed, there's a raft of benefits to be had, including weight loss. So maybe do that first, and that can happen over a period of time. So start to incorporate more natural and unprocessed foods. There's some big wins to be had from truncating your feeding window. So optimally, it's about 8 to 10 hours. So even before we've looked at the volume of calories or the macros, by shortening your window of eating, plus looking at, what was the first one I said?
I fell asleep.
Looking at more natural and unprocessed, there's some really big wins there. Then if you want to get into the minutiae, then you start manipulating your macros to suit more of a high fat, lower carb. But I think obviously this is all really individualized. So going from where you are now, never been a dieter, to keto tomorrow, will be a bit of a stretch, because there's going to be a transition. If you've never dabbled in a high fat diet, yes, we all have the machinery and the mechanism to run efficiently on fat, but if you've always been in a carb-rich diet, that machinery is just a bit dormant, and it's a bit ungreased and unoiled. So you need to dabble in that space for a period of time before you start to feel good and you start to feel like you're running efficiently on fat. So that's a transition. We're all capable of that. We all have the machinery and the mechanisms for that to happen, but it just takes time. So the short answer is you can still have keto diet as the end goal to see if that works for you, but there might be some wins before you even get there. And I would start by looking at crowding out the processed food, having an abundance of predominantly natural and unprocessed. Do that first. Running parallel, if you like, or secondary to that, is looking at your feeding window. So try and truncate that to about 8 to 10 hours, and you can do that over weeks and months if you like, particularly if your feeding window's in excess of 12, 13, 14 hours. It might take time to truncate that, and then start looking at your macros, start looking at intermittent fasting. But going from where you are now to all that might be a bit of a challenge, I reckon.
Just read Scott's book, Keto Diet.
Yeah, so I wrote a book on the keto diet. I don't talk about ketosis until maybe chapter 4. There's all this stuff that we can do before we even get there that's health promoting, and I don't really talk about weight loss in there per se, but if your diet is predominantly natural and unprocessed, there's some massive wins for body composition and health outcomes. Okay, another one for you.
Yeah.
What's for dinner tonight? No. What is the single most important thing you do for yourself daily? And what is the single most important thing you do for your family daily?
Okay.
Do you want me to answer that?
You can answer the thing I do for my family. Single most important thing I do for myself daily. I was thinking about this in the shower this morning.
Sounds like you've answered your question.
And it's not one thing. I was like, I can't think of anything that I do for myself like that's consistent. But I probably have a bag of tricks. And those bags... What?
Yeah, go on.
And those bag of tricks are... I guess like it comes down to what I'm lacking. And then like what's my go-to. So it might be like a massage. That's my go-to if I'm feeling like I should probably meditate but don't want to. just go and get a massage, maybe like once a month if we're not in COVID and they're open. I would try and, there's times when I really feel like meditation is what I need to do. But to be honest, I don't do that very often. But I do really appreciate it when I do. And I can't believe the benefits of it when I've meditated. But it's just like so far from the list of things that I do on a regular basis. But I also notice how beneficial it is to Scott when he does it. But I just don't have the time in my day or the capacity to do it every single day because I have 2 small kids and so much to do. So massage, meditation, cleaning the house. Don't make a face about that.
I didn't.
Vacuuming.
If I did, it was subconscious.
I actually really love cleaning.
You should do it more often.
Zipping around and making sure, and like, no, it's
well, it gives you a sense of
own,
accomplishment.
Yeah, it gives you an immediate sense of accomplishment. You feel good after you've done it. And then rearranging the house. It's creative.
It's constant.
Hates it. But it suddenly gives you a new perspective. So it's
no, I don't hate it. I love it because you've always got a new lounge room or bedroom, like literally most days or at least once a week. I don't recognise the room. But it's normally me that's moving furniture from here and anyway.
And then some sort of creativity, some sort of either writing. That's always useful to me. I guess before I started doing writing, to put it out there, it was like journaling, which I really recommend as a form of, like as another form of meditation or another form of
expression,
expression or working things out, just like sitting down for 10 minutes and just letting things come out. When Scott does it, you notice you enjoy it, don't you? You don't do it very often, but if you're trying to work through things, it's really helpful.
Yeah, it's a fairly new practice for me, and I always thought I could never really wrap my head around journaling and how that could be beneficial. And I think I related it to, dear diary, today I, an account of what you did today, but it's actually, as you're describing, it's a very cathartic expression of how you're feeling, not the mechanics of your day, not what you did and what you achieved. It's actually how you're feeling, and just, I think you just say it's just like a flow. It's just like a dump of what's going on inside for you. And I think, I'm probably much like other males that I don't communicate much.
I think that's why it's good for you, because
testifies.
I'm always talking out my feelings to Scott, like endlessly. And he's not, and it's actually really hard for Scott to talk about stuff that he's dealing with. I have to like pull it out of him. But if he sits down and, just allows himself to let it come and get it out, it's like a load off. So that, journaling, and then I would say, exercise is always a great thing to do. It's hard to do it sometimes. I find it really hard to do at the moment. But I'm doing the happy medium cleanse, which is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Exercise at 5, no wine. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, wine, no exercise. Balance, it's all about balance. I think that's probably my bag of tricks.
That's good.
Nature. It's another one. Okay, moving on.
And so what is the single most important thing you do for your family? Is that the question?
I'm going to answer this quickly because I feel like this is dragging on.
Okay.
I was like, wow, what do I do for my family? But then I realized everything. Everything.
I
from the
think
moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed.
Yeah, it is. You're right. You're very giving and loving.
No, but just generally as a mum and as a parent, you're always doing things. It's just, for me, it's my life is, it's like stealing moments for myself, I feel like. And same for you right now. With 2 small kids, it's like you're stealing a moment of time where you can dedicate it to yourself. And it's really hard, and it's even that moment where you're stealing it, you're still like one mind is on, half your mind is on, is Scott okay with the kids? Should I get back to that? And so it's, most of my day is dedicated to the kids. I would like to be more present in the times that I am, because I feel like when you're with the kids, there's also your other side of your mind is fighting, is thinking about how can I blah, blah, blah for the business or, so, I guess I'd like to be more present in both of those times.
Oh, I think it's incredibly difficult to be present with the kids whilst having your own business or businesses. I've always wrestled with this. We've got 2 young kids, but I've also got a 13-year-old, and I've always, particularly at holiday times, the weekends aren't so hard because it's a nice time to switch off for me, but in holiday, non-term times, he's there, he wants to play, he wants to surf, whereas I'm like, well, it's not really holiday for me, and then you end up trying to do both, which is, you end up not doing either particularly well. It's a real challenge. But it's all a work in progress. Well, I think the way I would answer that is that, and maybe I'm better placed to answer it because I'm the recipient of,
go for it.
is that you are present and you are energized and you are positive. Just those things alone bring a certain force and dynamic to the house.
Thanks, babe.
Because I'm the antithesis of that. I'm the slow, I'm the quiet type, and so
you're like a sloth.
Yeah, pretty much. Which is out of the claws. Just gonna shut that door.
Thanks.
Okay, we got one more.
I've actually got a few more.
Oh, okay.
This is supposed to be a quick question and answer, and we've gone on a bit. So
That's all right.
Okay, so this is a question for you. I've struggled to lose weight after Bub. She's actually 3 now, and I'm still 10 kilograms heavier than I feel is healthy, confirmed by my BMI. I've tried fasting alongside exercise and healthy eating, but it didn't really help. So after 6 months, I stopped and got bigger in the middle as a result. Can I ask how regularly you fast? How long for? Do I try and avoid anything in particular? Gluten, dairy, any suggestions would be appreciated.
Okay, so to answer the first part of that before we get into the fasting, weight loss or body composition, weight management, however you want to term it, requires about 3 different principles, and they're the sort of metrics that you need to base your decisions off. Calories in, calories out, the timing of your nutrition, and the quality of your calories. So once you've got your head around that, that's kind of the nitty-gritty, that's the nuts and bolts. However, you've also got to contend with, manage and attend to the behavioral side of things, the cognitive side of things, the psychology of why we have patterns of behavior around food, why we have cravings. So understanding the nuts and bolts of weight management is one thing, but the other is that you need to address these old patterns of behavior that we all have. We all have past traumas and experiences that define us and our relationship to food. So you need to address both. In terms of fasting, I've dabbled a lot in fasting, but particularly before I met Till, and for probably the first couple of years whilst I was with Till, I was probably intermittent fasting most days, occasionally doing a 24, occasionally doing a 48-hour fast. Now,
You don't fast at all.
Well, it's sort of, so I'll do maybe a 12 to 14-hour fast, but I don't do much more than that, to be honest. And that's because my calorie intake is around about 3,300 calories a day. So if I have a longer non-feeding window, which means my feeding window is, let's say, 8 hours, so you're doing 8, 16, I've got 8 hours to get, 3,500 calories in, which is tricky. And when you're breaking down the macro split, there's a target calorie for protein. So I need to get all this protein in 8 hours, and it's a real challenge. So I've actually sort of lengthened that a little bit, and so I'm habitually fasting for only sort of 12 to 14 hours, where Till's doing a 16-hour fast every day and you've been doing that for 3 months now, and you're diligent about it.
I eat dinner and then stop eating, obviously, but we eat dinner early, and then I don't eat again until 11 o'clock the next day, but I'll have a Bulletproof Coffee in the morning. So at around 7 o'clock, Scott makes us a Bulletproof Coffee, which is coconut oil, butter and coffee, and it doesn't break the fast. I don't know why. Scott knows. But he says it doesn't break the fast, but it keeps me going to 11 o'clock, and then I'll eat like a pretty big meal with greens, a lot of greens and some protein, and then probably a few more snacks throughout the day, and then dinner. And I basically do that because I know how many calories I have to have in the day to be at the weight that I like for myself. And I like food, and I'm pretty greedy. So it cuts out a meal for me, essentially, or it shaves off a few hundred calories. That for me is pretty much like the tipping point. And I've been doing that for maybe 3 months now, and I love it.
Yeah, I wouldn't hang your hat on fasting being the mechanism to weight loss, just as I wouldn't hang my hat on exercise being the mechanism of weight loss. I reckon fasting is one of, if not the most potent thing we can do for longevity and cellular health. So do it for that reason. When you're talking about weight loss, sort of, you can kind of separate them to a degree. So weight loss, you got to focus on those 3 principles: calories in, calories out, the quality of those calories, and the timing, which obviously loops back into the fasting. But
if you want to know more about that, I think 2 videos ago Scott talked about those exact things in detail.
Yeah.
Should send that lady the link to that.
Yeah. So I hope and the BMI, again, don't hang your hat on that. It's a very sort of broad indicator, so it doesn't account for muscle mass. Not that I'm Mr. Muscle, but according to my BMI, I'm obese. So it's a very sort of, it's a it's a measure that works, I guess, for general population, but you have to individualize that. So it doesn't take into account muscle mass or density. So don't worry too much about the BMI. It's a loose marker maybe for you, but if you focus on predominantly natural and unprocessed, there's some big wins, and fucking hell. It's nice having a really supportive, loving partner. Oh.
I wasn't doing that. I was just.
Oh, and
people have things to do. People have things to do.
That's all right.
Maybe they don't. You're in lockdown.
And further to the fasting thing, again, do that for health reasons and longevity. Maybe not to lose weight, unless you're a habitual overeater. So the very virtue of reducing your feeding window reduces the opportunities to eat if you're being diligent about it. So I'm the opposite to that. I'm almost a habitual undereater, so I need to extend my feeding window to get more calories in. Do try and avoid anything. Do I try and avoid anything particular? I try and avoid gluten, and I'm pretty successful in that. Occasionally I have some sourdough, but on the whole, gluten is sort of...
Yeah, same.
And I don't want to go too far in the weeds with this, but it does have an immune response. So whether you're celiac or not, it all impacts us negatively. So just be mindful of that. Supportive, loving. And what was the other thing? Dairy. You could try and avoid dairy for like 30 days and see what impact that has one way or the other. Dairy is a bit curly in the sense that if you don't have a sensitivity or an allergy to casein or lactose, it can actually be health promoting. But if you do have an allergy or a sensitivity to those compounds, then it can be an inflammatory response. So knowing where you sit personally with dairy and dairy products will dictate whether you can incorporate those into your...
I don't eat dairy because I notice an immediate reaction when I eat dairy.
Yeah.
Which is just that I feel really bloated and my tummy looks like I'm 3 months pregnant.
So I didn't have dairy for, aside from ghee and butter, for about 8 years. And probably just in the last 12 months, I've started to include it because of this, this sort of the new literature that's coming out about if you don't have an allergy or sensitivity, it's actually quite beneficial for you. So I do have milk occasionally now, and I do have halloumi. Halloumi was always there, to be frank. Halloumi is a bit of a superfood. I don't know whether you know that. It's up. No, well, yeah. Really? No, it just tastes bloody good. So that's been kind of novel for me, and I'm quite enjoying it. And it obviously provides a lot of calories. So for me, I've got to get 3,500 calories in. I need some calorie-rich snacks.
Scott's one of those annoying people who's just allowed to eat whatever he wants, basically.
Yeah, but I also train...
Not like what... You eat very healthy, but yeah, and you train a lot. But also, like, what a problem to have.
But I'll challenge that. I don't train a lot. I train probably about half an hour, maybe 5 or 6 days a week. But that half an hour is fairly intense. So that affords me, and we were talking about this the other day, I love training because it gives me the green light to eat more food. I bloody love food. I think food is what makes the world go round. And every opportunity to eat is an opportunity to have something delicious. And so by training, it means that I can eat more throughout the day and more opportunity to eat delicious food.
But training makes me ravenous. And so it's a slippery slope. If I train too much, I'm so hungry, I just need to eat all day. And so I would rather not train so that I don't feel that extreme hunger all through the day, where I'm just constantly going like, oh, I'm so hungry, I need to go to the fridge again and eat. So like that's why I just don't exercise as much as I used to, really. But exercise is important, so I do it sometimes. Okay. But
use exercise. Hang on. Use exercise as a mood elevator. Don't use it necessarily as the mechanism or the vehicle for weight loss. The vehicle for weight loss is nutrition, predominantly natural and unprocessed, and sleep. So both those things help to auto-regulate our hormones, start to level things out. And at that point, you're in the best possible position to manage your weight. Without those two things, without that normalization of your hormones, it's going to be pushing shit uphill. The exercise, the fasting, those are just cherries on top. So use exercise as a great way to lift your mood and help to inform your decisions throughout the day on food, nutrition, and lifestyle in a positive way.
Okay. Okay, last one. Last one?
Yep.
Just started the Fluid Form Pilates 6-week challenge. Don't do that one. Do Scott's.
Do my Pilates challenge.
Do the Happy Medium challenge. I need muscle building snacks. Give me your best, healthy, high protein, low sugar snack that freezes well. Not a bliss ball scenario, something else.
Oh, bloody hell. Couple of things. Try to avoid snacking if you can. This whole premise that we've been sort of subscribed to for the last few decades, that we should sort of graze throughout the day, that doesn't lean into our physiology, and it's not really health promoting. And of course, if you're ravenous, then snack. But trying to get your calories and your energy and your nutrients from 2 or 3 or perhaps 4 meals dotted across the day would be more beneficial. Each meal, if you prioritize protein has a functional structural role in our body, so base your meal on protein. But to answer the question, I guess, which is something that Till and I have been doing for Zan, is cramming a bunch of nutrient-rich foods, and in particular protein in the form of protein powder, into a smoothie, blitzing that and pouring it into ice cream or icy pole molds. So if you're looking for protein-rich, freezable snacks, then I reckon off the top of my head, that or frozen bone broth in ice cube trays, which I've done before, that then you can deposit into a smoothie in replacement for protein powder. Or like that
little soup that you make sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Which is really,
so
really
it's actually on my website. It's called The World's Easiest Soup, and it is bone broth. So you can either make that ahead of time and freeze it, as I've just described. You can either do that in ice cube trays, or the really big ones for Negroni ice cubes. Pour broth into those, and then just heat that up with a carrot, some ghee or butter, some silver beet or kale or spinach, squeeze of lemon juice, bit of salt.
Blend.
Blitz it at the end. So heat it all up and then blitz it. It's fucking
it makes
yum.
like a really yummy, creamy, kind of frothy, delicious. So.
All right. Well, I hope that helps.
Wait, should we just see if there's any questions here?
Oh shit. Play it cool.
Any last questions before we go?
Love your book. You guys are so sweet together. Jesse, you're getting some serious Jeff Bridges wings there. Pair with the bill. Love your book. You guys are so sweet together. Okay.
Jesse, all right. You're getting some signing off. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you for watching. I hope we answered some of your questions. Keep them coming in. I'm loving it. Obviously, Till's loving it. She's loved being here with me today. It's been a lot of fun. So honestly, keep them coming in. Head to Custodian of Health on Facebook. It's a closed group, but you're all welcome. And all this content, plus free workouts, plus seminars and webinars and cooking demonstrations will be deposited there. All free information, and it's all there to propel us in the right direction from an immunity perspective, make us more resilient, energized, mood, everything. So head there if you haven't already, Custodian of Health. Thank you to my beautiful host, Matilda Brown.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
And stay safe, and hope you are all okay in this lockdown situation.
Yeah.
It's not the best.
No, take it easy.
Bye.